Well, I have a difficult task to deal with apparently an undefeatable argument. Morality is intrinsically good. Would you agree with it? I think everybody would. Moral enhancement is more morality. It's by definition, right? So moral enhancement is good. Is it possible to go against this way of thinking? Well, there's a list of arguments. I will not dwell on all of which. Time is limited. The first is the one I discuss more in my book, that you cannot enhance human beings. You may enhance traits, but somebody that is taller is not a better person than a shorter. Somebody that is faster is not a better person than a disabled paraplegic. From a freedom perspective, the respect for human dignity, there is no purpose against which human exist. I mean, a cell phone is portable phone, making it lighter is enhancement. But if you don't believe that humans are there to serve any purpose, you cannot enhance them. The second is that moral enhancement is not an intrinsically coherent concept. We'll develop it here. Moral character, behavior, judgment is essentially unpredictable and open to critical singularities. I will explain, but one example would be Jesus turning the tables in the temple, or Moses killing the Egyptians. Sometimes you have extreme acts, critical positions that come from nowhere, existential dimension. There is the danger of complicity that we will discuss, and the danger of the enhancement monster. It's not a frightening monster, it's a very friendly one, you will see. Now, we have a problem, a conceptual problem, I think. Is morality a functioning or product of function? Or look at who is more Jewish. So we'd say, well, Einstein is Jewish, Rabbi of Lubavitch is Jewish, the rabbi maybe is more Jewish because he has the beard and the Jewish appearance, and he observes the tradition. But upon deeper reflection, we realize this is a meaningless question. There's no such a thing as more Jew or less Jew. We hardly know what exactly the definition of being Jewish. Or you would ask, what is more art, or what is more beautiful? Or maybe if you make the Mona Lisa look more like David, would you enhance the Mona Lisa, or vice versa? Or you need to make a cross of both of them, and then is the best artwork. So just to, or if I take a person and enhance her aesthetically, that she likes better this work on art relative to modern conceptual art, is it an enhancement or just making a person conform to a certain way of judgment? So just a pre-argumentation, intuitive appeal to certain things do not go by more or by a clear standard that we can add or make people adapt to. So you'd ask me, what about education? I will be brief. Who says that education is a coherent and stable concept? It's open. Not everything that passes off as education is either effective or good. And our topic is not education. But whatever you say in benefit of education may not necessarily lie here. And also, is morality a species-typical trait or functioning that we may enhance, or there are dimensions that come from outside any naturalistic conception of the human being? So I went to the literature. What are the moral traits? Or I just stole it from you, Nicholas. I like subcapacities, certain units, the molecules, the atoms of moral functioning that may be targeted for enhancement or improvement. So if you go to Christopher Bowen, he is an anthropologist, and later Patricia Churchland, who wrote very recent books about what we know in the research about the moral development of the human species and neurogenetics. What do we need to be moral? So there are basic pro-social traits like sympathetic feeling, a primitive sense of right and wrong, sense of rule obedience, and so forth. But when they describe the morality, this is not enough. Let's see this way of description. First, there are opposing basic dispositions like self-care and generosity, altruism and self-care, or tend befriend versus fight and flight. These dispositions must be moderate. They require cultural cultivation. If they are too strong, like certain patterns of animal behavior, we cannot, adapt to situation. And Churchland said in a stronger way, liberation for fixed action patterns. So we need action patterns, but we also need liberation for fixation on this action pattern. Internal and external reflectivity, situationism will mention it, and higher order level of integration. And I like the way Christopher Brown called it flexible conscience. It's not just that you need conscience, it must be flexible. So if we enhance conscience, it may be less flexible. And if we enhance the flexibility, we may become less conscientious. I hope you see the conceptual problem when we try to break down our moral traits, because morality by essence entails certain contradictions and instabilities. And then you go to motivation, maybe moral motivation, and I will not go again into the question of situationism, that people tend to adapt a situation, then they have a global personality, and then you would say, well, maybe the best moral enhancement is manipulation of environment and social institutions. I still think it is. This is the example I gave about the ultimate deterrence. If we just decide that every transgressor be executed in pain, the rate of transgression will go down. So there are ways, not only nudges. If there is less inequality, if there's better health or perception of health, perception of personal security, people behave differently. And we see soon why this is all important. So to start to build up something, where basic moral characters, we can divide into the less side and the more side. I mean, less is be happy with less. Be a Buddhist monk. On the other side, maybe morality is to do more. Battle cancer, battle oppression. All these operations have significant side effects. If you want to run transplantation medicine, rather than to meditate in a cave and be happy with the situation until you die, it requires high-tech society with all that is associated with it. There is the passivity. Don't be aggressive, don't push, don't leave carbon footprints, and there's the pro-action. Change life for the better, you know, go somewhere. There's the risk-averse, the precautionary principle, or the risk-avid, just reversing the precautionary principle. How can we not try to do something when we see our bad and horrible experience as society in terms of war, genocide, of malfunctioning, and so forth? So which direction will we enhance, suppose we can do it? Who is the Buddha? I mean, you have these images of the fasting Buddha in the tradition, and also the fat Buddha. It's not an ideal character in the Buddhist tradition exactly, but it shows that even if we go to ideal types, and the same culture projects different and opposing ideals depending on the message, the situation, you cannot say there is an integrative way of Buddhist ideal that you might enhance towards. And now we go to danger. In light of this situation, you have the danger in the Morns enhancement discourse, and I call it the blind is designing the telescope, because we are like, you know, this, maybe the Russian farmers trying to improve the cart, not thinking of the car, because where there are so many ways to grow, we don't know what to do. Whether we wish to enhance people that become vegetarian, they would have aversion, sorry for the spelling mistake, to meat. Or maybe we need to design animals so they don't suffer from factory farming. I mean, if you know, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy has this idea. Should we reduce the disposition to dominate or increase the joy in serving and caring? As long as there's no clear answer to these questions, there is the risk of complicity, that we will push society with a license of enhancement where it's easier to push. So we will find the people accepting enjoying service. We might push them to service. And we have this discourse already going on, for example, in care ethics. Should we increase, the feminine side on bioethics and put much emphasis on care? Or maybe this is just, pushing women to serve others, and this is false consciousness operating, non-genuine caring. And there's no answer to this right now, and I don't know whether we have, suppose we have a license to enhance, and the toolbox in which we can effect all these changes safely and with no side effects, which way we go. Make people gut resistant to contaminated water or improve quality of potable water. What shall we do with third world people? Maybe just get them more immune to contamination. Globalize constancy, that we have a stable character, or alter the situation, change society. Which way should we go? Diogenes is our ideal. He's so much happy with little, but he helps nobody. Solomon, King Solomon, here you sing about to slain the baby, that, the ultimate and wise social institution, this is an experiment in moral enhancement. He asked wisdom, God gave him special wisdom. He is about to decide maternity by this cruel game, and everybody is saying, wow, how wise this person is. So we'll talk about it. This is the enhancement monster. That, if God gave him wisdom, we cannot, think otherwise. Or maybe Robin Hood. Robin Hood is a violent person. He will release oppression. Diogenes will not help. King Solomon might be a ideal type that you need to work hard until you get legitimacy. He's also killed many people off, if you read the book of Kings before he entered into his judgment. Maybe we need Robin Hood. Which way shall we enhance? So we say, okay, and this is the level that I think this conference is going. We don't bother. It's too much. This is for scientists. We black box moral behavior. This is the human being or human society. There is input, there is output, which is judgment and behavior, and we do something that the output is better. We don't need to go into the details. It's too much. And this is the idea of strong virtue ethics. We'll see what we'll have. Well, let's get the virtuous person, and when we have the virtuous person, or whatever she does, it's good because it's a virtuous person. We don't need to account for it verbally. So let's see what goes here. First, we have the question whether this ideal about cloning the ideal self, because when I talk about moral enhancement, is what I approve of, and might be quite different from what John would, when he would have the. But we have to remember that morality is about personal growth, not about perpetuating my ideal type, but rather I should be open to personal growth. Maybe Professor Peter Singer is right about his attitude about vegetarianism. And if I have the license today to morally enhance people, I may enhance them in a different direction. Moral protest and defiance, moral utopianism. And actually, the topic of our conference is the oldest in the history of philosophy. This is Socrates. And morality, and most of the morality, talk about sociability, altruism, generosity. Be a good citizen. And Socrates wanted to be a good citizen of Athens. He's not Diogenes. But there's also something in morality, an existential position that comes from the deepest layers of human freedom, that you can stand against all others, to be alone and say there's a different truth in it. And Socrates is not willing to give either. And nobody in the tradition of morality, I think, is willing to give either. Maybe those make this vow of obedience in the monasteries. It's open to discussion in Catholic theology. How would we enhance Socrates? Make him conform to the rules of Athens, run away, or accept his fate? Do we have an answer for this? So if we do have an answer, maybe we don't need enhancement. And if we don't have, how can we design and start off the enhancement project? Because this is the oldest question. Now, I want to sum up the arguments. how the steps I laid sum up to a big danger. First, the black boxing of moral judgment. I mean, with all these contradictions, and also the car, maybe you have a misconception. Think of a car. There is a brake and a gas. It's a contradiction. The car is useless. Okay, we need to understand. So maybe we understand all the activity and passivity and nuance of the black boxing. Let's go to performance. Then we are openness to diversity of responses. Even about torture, we've heard we are open to the possibility might be possible. I mean, sometimes it's good to be, to turn the table in the temple and be violent, and sometimes good to accept death on the cross. We're open to all possibilities. We don't have an objective standard of judgment. If we enhance memory, we can do it against memory tests. Then we have the enhancement fallacy. If a morally enhanced person said or did something, it must be right. So let's take this. Shall we give kidneys? Everybody should give kidneys to the needy. What will you say? Okay, we'll check. If the morally enhanced person does it, well, that's the new standard. If she does not, well, maybe those who give kidneys are deluded. Is Peter Singer right? Let's see what the morally enhanced person does. If he's vegetarian, maybe so. If he is not, well, we need to conform. And the worst thing, it will be also enjoyable. Because there's this experiment, you give a bottle of wine, and I tell you, this is the best wine from Bordeaux, and this is sent to you by the people who love you, and people enjoy the wine better than if you take the very same wine and tell, well, this is the leftover from the soup kitchen, the Salvation Army. So when we know that we can rely, we rely on the morally enhanced authority or a morally enhanced pattern or character, even if things are not perfect, we enjoy reality because we know this is the best reality we can come by. I mean, utilitarian-wise, hedonistic-wise, this is a good solution, this enhancement fallacy. 2 minutes. Okay. 2 more. Oh, yeah. The nihilistic outcome that the unenhanced relegate moral judgment. I mean, we will not be forced to do it, but we always feel deference, and we lose our confidence to argue with each other the way we do here. And morality is about the inescapable responsibility for our actions, including actions as designers of whatever enhancement operation might be going on. So, thank you. This is the moral monster of Yerushalayim. My children likes it. And you see, it's very, very nice. That's what my daughter asked, that for her birthday to go on a trip to the monster, the Mifletzet of Yerushalayim. And since I have one more minute, I remind you that this is the festivity of moral enhancement. In Judaism, this is Pentecost, when God gave the Torah to Israel and enhanced us in a way that we teach you the wisdom of God, and you need to listen. And the second time in Pentecost, the Holy Spirit descended on the apostles, and certainly they teach us what is good to do. So this experiment has been done already, and successfully, and we are celebrating it.
I didn't know I was listening to the wisdom of God, but it did nonetheless sound like some wisdom. Questions? Owen, first.
So, I guess some of your argument relies on a notion of moral uncertainty. The lack of an objective standard, you can't really, there's a black box in our moral psychology and that sort of thing. And that does seem to be a problem, figuring out exactly how to morally enhance people if you don't have an objective standard to determine what's good and what's bad. But this is a problem, this isn't a unique problem to moral enhancement. This is a problem for all policy. Disagreement in society, it's really unclear, what the good is, what each individual's good is, how to ensure that they act in appropriate ways to each other, for themselves, etc. And I guess I just worry that maybe some of these implications are a bit too radical. Maybe you're okay with this, but implying that a lot of regular policies we have concerning human behavior is going to be problematic for the same reasons.
Yeah.
Thanks. Jay?
Well, to follow up on that, just because some professors think that the only measure of success of higher education is how many people get and you're incorrect about that. Doesn't mean that we don't have some way to figure out of all the different pluralistic outcomes higher education could have. What are some good outcomes and what are some bad outcomes?
Because I'm not sure if I understand.
It might be the risk that for some people that might be the outcome, that they make this inference. And then we will have the philosophical problem whether they are right or wrong. Because suppose we enhance and we think that we have reached an enhanced person, how do we deal with the contentions of this person if they are very different, like Socrates? You know, so think about the Athens enhancing a person, and this person is Socrates. Should they defer to his teaching?
Well, it assumes we have the independent criteria for deciding what is moral enhancement.
What are they?
The question needs to be decided in advance.
That is the risk of the blind designing the stethoscope, because the Athens would not see, or many people would not see, you know, the abolition of slavery, for example. Who would design it?
The blind designing the stethoscope?
I think you meant
Yeah.
the telescope.
The
Telescope.
telescope, sorry, the telescope, not the stethoscope, the telescope, sorry, the telescope.
The deaf that need to
See,
design the stethoscope.
it's a Freudian, I'm thinking of one, the telescope, I mean,
Right. Oh, yes. Nick, and then we will close and give you a chance to respond. Nick.
Hey, so yeah, I was interested in some of your enhancement dilemmas. I guess cases in which it seems that you can go one direction or the other. And I guess one of the first examples you had on your list, you have one option, you could make people vegetarian, or you could modify animals so that they enjoy getting eaten. And I guess those seem to be two opposite directions. But and it's kind of a practical dilemma, which is the best way to go. But I guess right now we have lots of people eating meat and lots of animals that don't really get a lot of fun out of being eaten. So it seems that we're in a bad place right now. Now, which way should we go? But I guess going one of those ways, either of those ways, maybe seems better than what we have now. Isn't that? I guess that's kind of an empirical question.
Right, thank you. Michael.
well, certainly many social practices and habits like the penal system and educational, I mean, my criticism aims this as well, and the moral enhancement talk appeared on a certain background. I mean, Bentham's panopticon is in this tradition. And the pluralism is not the issue. The issue is, how do we decide, how do we make choices for ourselves or for society? And this is the level we are aiming. So maybe you promote memory, you wish to make yourself a little more altruistic. I don't say that experimenting of this kind, making this kind of experiments is inherently bad and should be tabooed. I didn't say it. But we need some humility. First, the title of moral enhancement, I would, put it aside a little. We try. I mean, marriage, you could take it as an experiment in becoming a little more altruistic. You want to live with someone that you give a lot to, maybe sometimes altruistically. You try it out to see if it works. You don't do it with every other person, but many people seek this for all sorts of reasons. But I would not call the married morally enhanced relative to the bachelors. So certainly we should try, we should explore. All sorts of interventions are certainly, in my opinion, better than some educational practices. But the concept is not about a deep change of who we are or long-range changing of moral standards. Because we cannot lose the string. I think this is what John Harris meant in one way, if I may say, about the freedom, that losing the string. So you might say now there's no way to make animals enjoy farming, so let's try to be averse to meat and eat it less. So it might be a fine prudential project for the moment. But in the long range, you ask yourself, what is good for society? And I give you one example for this, that how much these practical things interact with more fundamental questions. Let's take dialysis and renal transplantation, okay? When you go to the beginning of either procedure, could say it might be unethical to even try it. You see how many people died from complications from early dialysis, from transplantation. I mean, you might say the moral thing to do is precautionary principle. I mean, don't put people on these horrible machines. Don't dilute them. This is dangerous technology. And then there's something, what I called in different places, blessed coincidence. I mean, the dialysis and transplantation matured in parallel. Because if dialysis technology, had it matured fast ahead of transplantation, it would have been unethical to try transplantation, or much less ethical, because you had a very good solution, dialysis. Why put people in transplantation when so many die? Or vice versa. So sometimes the circumstances might compel a moral choice. I mean, the technologies involved in the breakthroughs regarding transplantation is immunosuppression, dialysis to do with anticoagulation, and membranes. They don't mature in parallel, and you have to make a choice. But at the end, the real question is, and this is the big deep question, and this question I will not give to any enhanced creatures because we don't know which creature we decide. It's a question to these ultimate questions. I have 2 minutes. The ultimate questions, like how you decide which way to go, whether you are more on the safe side with dialysis or more daring, or whether you make the parole decision when you are hungry or satiated, whether you're on the side of the families of the victims that are against it, or maybe future victims of the side of the patient. I don't see how we have any concept of enhancing or creating or answering the ultimate creature or method that will reach the most fundamental questions. When we regress and regress, when we have to regress to basic questions, we reach a terrain that is unenhanceable, and maybe the stupid person is no less good in making a decision than the smart one. The Socrates said, I know nothing. But he just had this courage to stand against society. If we don't want to lose this, to be complicit, we don't have answer existentially from a deeper layers of morality about this issue of enhancement. We cannot enhance this point in moral choice, this existential point.
Thank you very much, Michael.